Hi everyone, this is a video on how to make felt, a beginner's guide. My name is Aannsha Jones and the materials that you need are listed below this video. So first of all we're going to see how to pull wool tops apart to lay down for felting. So basically, holding the main bundle fairly softly, grab the top firmly and then just pull. So you hold the big bundle quite gently and you grasp the end with a firm hold and you pull firmly apart and you'll get little bundles. You might want to practice that before you start. So first of all you're going to lay out the first layer and you overlap little swatches of the wool that you're pulling off the main wool roving. Then you're going to lay a second layer. So basically you overlap each piece so that there are no gaps, and if you do discover any gaps when you pat it down, then just fill it in with another little piece of wool. Remember that wool, when you felt it, shrinks by 30%. So if you want a certain size of felt, you're going to have to factor that in. So you repeat the process until you have 3 layers of wool rovings or wool tops laid out neatly. Then you cover it with netting. If you get a nylon netting, either netting from a craft store or second-hand shop, this is a curtain, it won't felt with the material, but it will keep the fibres in place. Then you spray the wool with a solution, so you dissolve some soap in water until there is enough water to soak through into all of the wool. You rub the wool gently with a little bit more soap, and then you start to rub the material very, very gently to start with, so that the soap rubs into the material. This stresses the wool and it actually helps water to be absorbed better. Every so often you need to pull the netting back as the wool fibres tend to migrate through the holes in the netting. So I'm pulling my net curtain back here, which I got second hand from an op shop, and the fibres are starting to make their way through the little holes in the netting. So you need to keep doing this fairly regularly to start with, because otherwise you'll have pilling on the outside of the netting and you'll lose some of the wool from the actual piece of felt that you're trying to make. And also it will be pretty difficult to remove the netting if you've felt it completely without doing this process. Now you do a little pinch test to see how well the fibres are felting together. As you can see, these fibres are actually still very unfelted. They're still quite separate from each other. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And you can also see as I pull the fibres on the outside of the felt here that it's still got a lot of felting that needs to be done. So you're going to repeat this rubbing and peeling back the netting and the pinch testing a couple more times. And as you work the felt, eventually you can start to rub it more and more firmly. In fact, you can even use a bunched up piece of bubble wrap if you like to give the rubbing a bit more friction. What you do need to do is make sure that you rub every single piece of felt. don't leave any fibre without being rubbed, because it's this friction and the alkaline of the soap and water that is to help it felt together. Now you can also use a glass with a pattern base if you've got one, because that gives it even more friction again, and as the felting process comes along you can actually start to rub it quite firmly, because the more firmly you rub it, the more you're stressing those fibres, and the more the fibres are going to grab together, which is actually what makes the wool felt together. They've got little hooks in them that sort of act like barbs, and they all grab together, and that's basically what happens when you felt. So you keep going here, making sure that you do the edges as well as the inside. You've got to do the edges so that there aren't any loose fibres left. Then we check the wool again, and you'll see how much more easily it comes away from the netting this time. And you'll also see that it's a lot more of a sturdy material. Doing a little bit more rubbing, one final rub. Obviously the amount of rubbing depends on the size of the piece of felt and the thickness or the amount of layers of wool that you've actually laid down. Obviously the thicker it is, the more you're going to have to do. So rubbing in all directions. And then we pull the netting away, and we have a nice piece of material that is well felted together to the first stage. So now we're going to cover the material with bubble wrap and roll it firmly around a pool noodle or half a noodle and secure it with elastic bands. I always keep my elastic bands on the end of the noodle. So roll it nice and firmly so there's no gaps between the bubble wrap and the fibre and the noodle, and wrap it all. And now it's time to roll. Use a fairly good pressure and roll backwards and forwards between 50 and 100 times, again depending on the thickness and the size of the piece of felt that you're making. You certainly get a really good workout in your upper arms, so it's a great exercise. I always turn it a few times through the rolling process to make sure that it's all evenly rubbed and rolled. When you've done that 50 times, uncover it, and we're going to give it a quarter turn, because felt shrinks in the direction that it's stressed. So if you're rolling it one way all the time, you're going to end up with a long thin piece. So you unwrap it, and I give it a quarter turn clockwise. I always do it clockwise, and that way I know that I'm turning it the right way each time. But whatever works for you, just keep it a consistent direction. And then you're going to roll it another 50 times, and you need to do this 4 times so that you're rolling the felt and it gets the opportunity to shrink evenly. One more time, making sure when you put it back that the felt is nice and flat and that there are no bumps or creases, and rolling again. and another quarter turn. Rolling it one more time. Some people do this part of the process under their feet, so they sit on a rocking chair so their legs get a good workout. But I always work on the countertop in my kitchen. So that's looking good now. It's got a really good strong feel to it. So we're going to give the felt a good rub in all directions, and this is really stressing it now. So where the felt making process happened, all the fibres grabbed together and made a material out of all of the wool rovings. What we're doing here is a term called fulling. So it's shrinking the material, and as it shrinks it starts to become a lot stronger, and it takes on qualities like water resistance, which you will see after we've rinsed the water out of it. We do have to rinse this gently in lukewarm water, as extremes of temperature will cause the felt to keep shrinking, and at this point, if you've reached the size that you're happy with, you want to make sure that it doesn't shrink more. You can see that traditional bubbly texture that you get when you have a lovely fulled piece of felt. And if you have a look here, the water is beading on the surface, so that's showing you it's got good water resistance, so you've got a good piece of material here. Time to change the water and take away the bubble wrap that has the soap on it. So we give it another rinse just to make sure there's absolutely no soap left. Soap is alkaline and is stressful for the wool, so we don't want to leave it with an alkaline finish. We want it with an acid finish. So we have a final rinse in water that has about a teaspoon of vinegar in it. And this really benefits the wool because it will help it to stay firm and strong. So leave it to soak for a little while you tidy up. Taking it out of the vinegar soaking water, and it's time to gently pull it into shape and squeeze out the excess moisture in a towel and dry it flat. Felt is a great material because it is very forgiving, but it also molds into the shape that you pull it, which is why we have felt used in making akubra hats and bowls and all sorts of wonderful items. Now we're going to gently roll it in a towel and gently squeeze the excess moisture out of it. And there you have it, a beautiful piece of felted wool. Now, this piece of wool I actually eco-printed with some leaves from my garden and some sapphire dye, and doesn't it look beautiful? But we can also use felt in many different processes, and one of them is to make a felt painting. So if you're interested in making a felt painting or laying out the wool in a nice design, then there will be a link to another video that you can watch that will help you to do this. And also there is another video on eco-printing material as well. So if you've liked this video, please like and also subscribe if you'd like to have updates of any further crafting or creative videos that I produce. A lot of them are going to be eco-printing and felting and dyeing, but I also do painting and jewellery making. So look out and subscribe if you're interested, and please leave a comment if you'd like to. My name is Aannsha Jones, and until I see you next time, over and out.